Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning. Welcome to Financial Issues. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Financial Issues is a ministry that helps to educate the saints about financial issues from a biblical worldview. We hope that you're a partner with us. If you are, make sure that you check out the partner commentary that we posted and take note of the sell alert that we sent out. You should have gotten that into your inbox. If you did not, go to the website, log into the partner side of the website, go to the alerts tab, and you'll be able to find the information there. On today's show, we're going to get to your calls and questions. The phone lines are open. We've already got one person waiting in the queue, but you can get in as well. 610-363-1110 is the phone number. We'll also get to the latest economic information today, which is pretty much all about the markets and tariffs. And we'll get some encouragement from the scriptures as well, as always. So the markets, it's been a tough week for traders. The markets are absolutely beside themselves right now, trying to process all of the tariff and trade turmoil that we're getting hit with just day after day after day. Since mid-February, 2 of the 3 stock indices have breached correction territory, and 2 are flirting with bear territory, and 1 has actually crossed the line. So since mid-February, the Dow's down over 15%. The S&P is down 18.5%, and the NASDAQ is officially in bear market territory, down over 23%. Oil's down as well. Oil's down to about $56 a barrel. So lower oil prices will certainly help to offset some of the potentially inflationary impacts of tariffs, which I think would be just a one-time price correction. It will also work to starve Russia's war machine. That would be a good thing for those of you who are hoping for a quick and permanent resolution to the war with Ukraine. If we can work out a deal with Iran to get them from going off the rails with their nuclear program and to settle down with their agenda to destroy Israel, then their oil supply goes back on the market and oil prices can potentially go even lower. Our analytical team wrote about globalism, trade, and tariffs in our weekly commentary that we posted up to the website Monday afternoon, evening, and issued a sell alert yesterday. Make sure that you check that out. Do check that out. So what's happening in the markets right now is fear-driven. If you don't know what the Bible says about fear, I would encourage you to add that to your list of Bible study items this week, but we won't go into that right now. So right now there is only speculation about the tariffs, what they will be, how long they will last, where they will settle out, what their impact will be, and who will ultimately pay for them. Nobody knows the answers yet. And I'm not afraid to say that I don't know the answers yet either. So what Wall Street is trying to discern is how corporate profits are going to be impacted by tariffs. So if export nations don't pick up the tariff tab, then either consumers or companies that sell or use imported goods in their supply chains are going to be squeezed. So if it's the companies, if they eat those tariffs, if they pay the tariffs, their margins will shrink, which will make their share price go down because a company's earnings and sales is what drives their stock price long term. Right now, it is the speculation about what might happen to those earnings and sales. Earnings season for the fourth quarter begins this week. The big news, I believe, in earnings season won't be about what's said about last quarter, but it will be about whether CEOs can actually offer any forward guidance for the next several quarters about how their earnings and sales will be impacted by tariffs. We expect to hear a lot of crickets. So we expect future guidance to get pulled. We're already seeing that. So if you're going to buy a company that you expect to either make an immediate return from in the form of dividends that come back to you as a shareholder, or future return from growth that will happen over time, you not only want to see a history of good business results, but you also want to have reasonable evidence of future success. Tariffs are muddying the water and making it very difficult for companies to predict the sales, what their sales will be and their earnings will be if they have to pass along higher costs to the consumer. Point in case, Delta this morning came out and cut its growth plans and said it can't reaffirm its 2025 guidance. So at the beginning of the year, they said, this is what we think is going to happen in 25. It's going to be good. Now they're saying, we're not so sure about that. We got to wait and see. So also, what they said is also, given the lack of economic clarity, it is premature at this time to provide an updated full-year outlook. We think we're going to hear a lot of that during earnings season. Walmart this morning also pulls its guidance. So is all of this pain that we're seeing right now in the stock market, it's sort of isolated to the stock market and maybe to your cortisol levels if you get rattled fairly easily, but is all of this pain worth the potential gain? Do we really have to be the leader of the world? Does the United States really have to be top dog? Well, if we love the freedom that we have, the answer is yes. If we all wanted to live under the narcissistic control of the Chinese government, we would have already moved there. Apparently, we're not ready to give up our freedoms to speak freely, to own property, to protect and defend ourselves with the guns that we own, nor are we ready to give up our God-given rights to worship freely, because we're all still here. China's goal is to rule the world and all the citizens of the world. So who do we want leading the fight? The guy who wrote the book on the art of the deal with a spine of steel, or the spineless weasels in Congress who can't manage their own lunch money, helped us to accumulate almost $37 trillion in debt, sold off our jobs to other countries, and got rich on the backs of those who they were supposed to be serving. So I think it's comical now that Congress wants to insert themselves into what all is happening. In our blog for the partners, we trace back the beginnings of the eventual end of American sovereignty if we don't stop and do something now, and that is globalism. J.D. Vance also talked about globalism. He put globalism in a nutshell. Watch what he said here in this clip.
I think it's useful for all of us to step back and ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on two principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. That is not a recipe for economic prosperity. It's not a recipe for low prices, and it's not a recipe for good jobs in the United States of America. For 40 years, we have gone down that pathway. We've seen closing factories. We've seen rising inflation. We've seen the cost of housing so high that most Americans can't afford to buy a home right now. President Trump is taking this economy in a different direction. He ran on that. He promised it, and now he's delivering. And yes, this is a big change. I'm not going to shy away from it, but we needed a big change, Lawrence. We cannot keep going down the Joe Biden globalist pathway where we have $2 trillion of peacetime debt and deficits. We have manufacturing disappearing. That is not working for Americans. We've got to take this country in a different direction.
It's probably a little bit more complex than that, but JD really does break it down for the average folk to understand. But what we're watching play out on the world stage right now is a multifaceted plan crafted by a master strategist, and we're watching this unfold before our very eyes. We have chosen to go big, not go home. We are choosing and we are hoping to bring back manufacturing and jobs to the U.S. with what is happening here. Success will depend on those many battles being fought and won successfully. We need fair trade. That means making other quote-unquote rich companies pay their fair share. Would have thought Democrats would be on board with that. They liked it. They liked the tariffs when they were their idea, which we've seen multiple clips of on conservative media when they were talking about how much they liked those kinds of things and fair trade. China escalated this morning. China announced it will impose an 84% levy on U.S. goods starting tomorrow. This comes after the U.S. tariffs of 104% on Chinese goods took effect shortly after midnight. But 70 countries, the smart ones, are saying, let's make a deal. China imports 1/5 of what they export to the United States. A little bit more to come. 2 other points, but we'll have to wait to the other side of the break to get to them. And I'll go through them quickly because we have 2 callers in our call queue. So don't go anywhere. I'm your host, Shana Burt. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with more financial issues.
How is Timothy Plan continuing to lead the fight as you guys now enter your 4th decade of leading this fight of biblically responsible investing?
We've been too silent for too long, and we can no longer be silent. You stand up like Ronald Reagan said, we're only one generation away from losing all of our liberty. Yeah. It has to be fought for. I wish it didn't. And you can fight for it. You don't need guns and ammunition and that. You can fight for it, especially with your dollars, because it's always about the money. And when the money starts impacting people, they start paying attention. When we launched this, they said it couldn't be done, but here we are 30 years later. They said you couldn't get competitive returns, but here we are.
What a tremendous testament of God's grace.
Go to financialissues.org/Timothy Plans to learn more about Timothy Plan.
In a time when children are facing unprecedented challenges, the gospel stands as the greatest source of hope. At Crossroads Kids Club, we have the incredible opportunity to bring the message of Jesus into public schools nationwide. Join us in sharing the life-changing hope of the gospel with the next generation. The need is urgent, but God's love is powerful. Together, we can offer Christ's love to children who are longing for it. To join us, visit reachourschools.com. That's reachourschools.com.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone. And ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. Thanks for sticking with us. So I was saying before the break, we were talking about all of the tariff turmoil, and this really is a multi-faceted plan that is that has been initiated. That music is going very long today.
Yeah, this is rocking here, Shana. I'm liking it. Good stuff.
Trying to get me pumped up, I guess.
That's right. Pumped up for tariffs. No.
Pumped up for tariffs, yeah. So, there's a lot more happening than tariffs, and it seems like that's the majority of what we're hearing about on the news, and that's what's got the markets rattled. But, there are so many other things that are taking place all at the same time, and the success of Donald Trump getting everything that he promised on the campaign trail to come to fruition these people are everywhere, right? You look on the news and you've got Hegseth down in Panama. You've got, people in Iran and Russia and China. It's just, people are just everywhere. It's a well coordinated. Yes, there's some dissension, the feud that we had between Navarro and Elon the other day, but I liked Caroline Levitt's response to that. It was boys will be boys. And, you should be happy that we're not trying to keep all this, sweep it all under the carpet and keep it behind closed doors. We want you to know that we're looking, that we're hearing from both sides. We're hearing both sides of the argument. And that's a great thing to do when you're making tough decisions like that. So, we need the tariffs to work out right. We need deregulation so that businesses will actually want to come here and do business here, to build factories here, to provide jobs for our people, and stay here. Governments make bad CEOs. Just look at all the fraud, waste, and abuse that DOJ has been uncovering in government agencies. And, you want to make the United States a place where businesses have the freedom to make their decisions, not where the government micromanages their businesses. We also need, the third prong of that is lower taxes. So we need Congress to get to work to pass, to keep the tax cuts that were put in place in 2017 and go on and do the other things that Trump was talking about on the campaign trail. So if Trump and the Trump administration executes the plan and God gives us the victory, we will see America remain free. We will see our country continue to protect and defend the God-given rights that we have to life, liberty, and to the pursuit of happiness. If dark forces prevail, perhaps we go into a global financial meltdown. Well, the stage will be set for a one world government, a one world currency, the emergence of the Antichrist, and you know what comes next. So the stage is set. The stage is being set for end-time prophecies to be fulfilled if that worst-case scenario happens. You know what? If you've accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, either way, we win. So I know you've read the end of the book, right?
Amen.
All right, we got 2 callers in the queue. Let's get to Nelson. Nelson's calling from Louisiana. Hey, Nelson.
Good morning. A little bit of background. 8-year partner, doing fine with my portfolio, not worried. And kudos on the website. It's awesome. But I noticed a change this morning, and I'm looking for stocks on sale to fix my allocations. And the growth and income model changed this morning from what I remember. I'll give you an example. Materials, I had on my separate spreadsheet listed a 5% material allocation. Now it shows 1%. Other dropped off. I won't go through all of the changes, but I'm hoping there's some kind of explanation for what happened.
Yeah. So if you'll remember back, whenever we gave some guidance on the materials sector, we added 2 metals ETFs to the buy list. So this goes back several months. And we said we lumped them in with the materials sector. And we issued several sell alerts for materials stocks that we said hopefully would create enough cash to help you get into these ETFs that we put onto the list. Now, as we were working through the mutual fund models, we wanted to add these ETFs into that model as well. So by the logistics and the technical backside of the website, we had to create a new category for commodities. And so we just really clarified our guidance for the materials sector, and we split up what was there between materials and commodities. So you'll see it probably won't make that much of a difference when you go back, and if you did get those ETFs, if you recode them as commodities instead of materials, it probably will sort of wash out.
Okay, and that actually fits better with my, I've only been able to add 1 material back after selling so many of them, but just a change like this, I've been tracking this since the new website came out, and trying to work out what to sell, what to buy to get my allocations right. And I wanted to make sure I understood what the change was. Not that it's a problem, just an understanding. So I'll finish up just saying thank you guys so much for everything you do. And for anybody listening who's not a partner, this is the best value out there. I've looked at other clubs and Seeking Alphas and all these other things, And you guys do so much for us that is behind the scenes. Thank you to the whole team, and I'll let you get to the next call. God bless you all, and have a great day.
Thanks, Nelson. God bless you,
thanks,
and thank
brother.
you for that testimony.
Awesome.
That was great. All right, let's get to Rick. Rick's calling from Florida. Hi, Rick. You're live.
Hey, morning, Shannon. I got a question here, and I'm kind of like in a stock zone here, similar to the Twilight Zone. Just briefly, I had like 1,150 shares of MRO last fall, and without me knowing it, I got my quarterly statement said I no longer have MRO. I got COP, or I'm sorry, I have E31 stock, and now I don't know nothing about it. I kind of buried it, and I just kind of, I had no say in it. I just threw it, and it's sitting there. But I'm looking to, is it biblically responsible? I don't know. I didn't research it. It just was thrown in my lap. And so is it responsible, and is it worth investing this morning? Like I'm looking to invest more. But first, I'd like to know a little bit, if you could, briefly, if it's.
Yep. So we did issue a soft sell alert for this particular company back in October. We did communicate with the partners when this company that you have now bought out the other company, and we issued some guidance. So you may want to go back through the alerts and read what we said at that time. It is, the one that you have now is on our broad list as a hold. I would not add more money to it. It is technically clean from a BRI standpoint, but there are some activities that we're watching with the company that puts it on what's called BRI watch. So if you log into the new website, you go to the broad list, we have this nifty search feature there, and you just type in either the symbol, the E31, or the actual ticker symbol for the stock. It will pull up the holding right there. You'll see what our rating is on it. So I would not deploy any new money into that particular one. I would look at the other ones that are on the buy list.
Okay. Do you see the future just down the road here? Okay. Thank you very much.
Rick, I don't think Shana's a prophet. I'm not sure, but
I appreciate that. Thank you for being straightforward and honest. I just don't. Like I say, I'm in a stock zone, and so thank you for your help. Thank you very much. God bless you, and you just probably saved a catastrophe this morning. So, thank you.
Thanks,
Awesome,
Rick. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your call in, brother. Great to talk to you.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
You'll see in all of our commentaries, it says one of the things that we put in there was we don't know how far down the market's going to go. We don't, as quick as it dropped based on this event of the tariffs, it could reverse course based on a different event that comes out. So, it's just we don't have clarity into the future, and that's just part of investing. And, what we said and what we say all the time is that no one rings a bell at the bottom of the market. Nobody rings a bell at the top of the market. So, but the good news is you can still get good returns even if you don't get the absolute lowest price. Let's shift gears. Let's switch to the stewardship verse of the day, 1 Corinthians 6:18. Flee sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the person who is sexually immoral sins against his own body. Well, the Bible sets out some pretty specific parameters for what we are to do and not do with our bodies in the context of sexuality. So you might be thinking, what in the world does this verse have to do with stewardship? Hang with me. I'll get there. God's word is so deep and so multifaceted, and his word speaks directly to every situation and every topic that we face. God made and owns everything. He even went a step further for us. He paid a high price to redeem us with the blood of his only son. If God made our bodies and owns them, we are only stewards of them. When we learn that upon making a salvation decision, God himself takes up residence within us through the deposit of the Holy Spirit, we look at these decisions much differently. No longer can it be my body, my choice. So let me tie in with this verse, stewardship. Many of us already know the heartbreak and shame and separation that sexual sin can bring when we sin against our own bodies. But did you know that we also have a porn crisis in America? A 2023 study from Common Sense Media says that 73% of teen respondents aged 13 to 17 have watched pornography online. More than half reported first seeing pornography by the time that they reached age 13. If you're following our biblically responsible investing strategy, you're screening out these companies from your portfolio. But what about those precious children who have already been exposed? During our Crossroads Kids campaign, we told you about a kid who was just 8 when he became addicted to porn and how he found Jesus and deliverance from that porn addiction through Crossroads Kids Club. Would you be willing to fund the light by joining the movement to bring the gospel to children in public schools? If so, go to reachOurschools.com. It's a great way to fund the light. If you're listening on a station that only carries the short version of the show, we wish you a farewell. Everyone else, stick around. We've got more financial issues right after this break.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
I just love the first book of Exodus. The king says the Jews are too many. Get rid of them. I command you to kill the firstborn. But the midwives to the Hebrews heard the order, and what did they do? They defied it. And God dealt favorably with the midwives and gave them families. He blessed them for loving life. He blessed them for saving babies. We have re-entered the death cult in this country. You think about how much we elevate death, whether it be the chopping off of parts and we call it transgender care, whether it be shouting our abortion, and you see it so beautifully in John 10:10. It is the divide of the entire scriptures. Now, most people would say John 3:16, but think about it. The enemy has come to lie, steal, cheat, and destroy. I have come to give life and life more abundantly. That's the whole ball game, everybody. It is everything. And we have to have the joy of Jesus Christ to enjoy life and to protect it. It's a gift from above. And Preborn is leading the charge.
What separates Crossroads Kids Club from other ministries to reach school-age children? What sets you guys apart?
First of all is our connection with local churches. We mobilize, equip, train, support local church partners. We're right inside the schools. There's a number of ministries that try to serve public school children outside of the school, but we're able to be right there on the campus. Another key thing is just our values. Our highest value is actually relationships. And so we're not a ministry that's driven by a lot of fancy technology or flashy stuff, but rather getting adults who love Jesus and who love kids to sit on the floor with a group of kids, to listen to them, to love them. So I would say the relational emphasis and the simplicity of the model is actually something that makes Crossroads special as well.
Help reach kids with the hope of the gospel. Visit reachOurschools.com.
Welcome back to Financial Issues, everybody. Myself, Sam, the rest of the Studio A team will be taking you the rest of the way here. Great to have Shana on there. Man, I love those calls. I want to shout out to Nelson and Rick. Thank you for calling into the show. You both did a great job coming on the air. I know it's not an easy thing to do when you're not used to it. We don't do it every day to come on to a live radio show with thousands of people listening and try to make a coherent thought. But you guys did a great job. And of course, Nelson is one of our regulars over in the chat. So always good to see a chat representative coming onto the show. It's great to put a voice to the name. So awesome to see you there, brother. Make sure to join the live chat, by the way, folks, financialissues.org/live. It's busy today as usual. And I would just remind you, as Shana mentioned, the partner commentary is up. It is a good one. Also, we have a partner conference call tomorrow, April the 10th. It will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time. So 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time for the conference call tomorrow. Make sure to make it a priority to join. If you can't join, though, you can always listen to the conference call after the fact. It will be posted on the conference call website later that day. So please do try to listen tomorrow if you're able to listen live for the conference call. Again, tomorrow, April 10th, it'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 Central. Let's move now, folks, to the markets. You heard Shana just mention where the markets have been over the last couple of days. Yesterday, let's bring the microscope in a little bit here to see what they did yesterday. So the indices began the day hot out of the gate. If you remember, we were on the show and they were roaring out of the gate. We were thinking, you know what, it might be a good day. Well, apparently not, as they appeared to turn course, but as the day continued on, they just fell again. On the news of rising trade tensions between the United States and China. It seems like we are in a Cold War once again, at least in terms of trade. By Tuesday's closing bell, the Dow Jones was down almost a full percentage point. The S&P 500 was down 1.5%, and the NASDAQ was down over 2 percentage points. This morning, the pre-markets were moderately negative, comparatively speaking, as they've opened, all still red, but not as not as extremely red. And in fact, the NASDAQ has turned positive, so the NASDAQ is up 0.5 percentage point. The S&P 500 is just barely below the flat line, and the Dow Jones is down about 0.33%. So comparatively speaking, not so bad. But that's what we're looking like this morning. All right, so speaking of the chat, we got an excellent question that I wanted to address here from Matt. Matt's a new partner. He's watching from Warner Robins, Georgia. Sam, I'd love for you to just read Matt's question for us, and we can try to make some sense of this. This is a really good question.
Yeah, so Matt is asking, he says, would you happen to have any rules of thumb or guidance regarding helping adult children with a mortgage? My 35-year-old son and 40-year-old daughter-in-law recently asked to co-sign a mortgage, and I had to explain to them that I'd be on the hook financially. They seem to think I would be merely signing or recommending to the lender that they were responsible. I had to tell them that at the age of 66 years old, I wasn't comfortable with a 30-year mortgage, and it wouldn't be fair since I couldn't do the same for their younger adult brothers. I told them I'd be very happy to help with closing and or a down payment. Still, it's been a gut-wrenching decision, and I've been storming the gates of heaven in prayer. Please help.
Wow. Well, Matt, first of all, let me say, brother, I appreciate your heart so much with this. I can tell from just you typing that, the love that you have for your son and for your daughter-in-law, that you're not thinking about this lightly, that you've given serious thought to it, that you genuinely want to help them. I think that's an amazing thing. And I hope that as someone who is in his early 30s, I can speak to this situation as someone who is the age that your children are right now. But let me say this, even though I'm their age, I agree with you completely. I think you are wise not to sign this. I think it would be very dangerous, not only for you, but potentially also for them as well. Folks, we need people in our lives who love us enough to tell us the truth. And if parents can't do that, I don't know who can. As a parent, Matt, your job is ultimately to love your children enough that you're making them more like Christ. And I do think that this is the right thing to do here when you're talking about withholding your signature from this. I think it's exactly right. I get your heart, though. It's so tough. You know, it breaks my heart whenever I have to tell my little children no, or have to discipline them. You know, it's brutal. And this is not discipline, but in much the same sense, you are withholding something from them that you know they want and could potentially make them angry with you, could potentially make them frustrated with you. It sounds like maybe there already might be some frustration, at least some misunderstanding. You know, you said you had to explain to them that would put you on the hook financially, and perhaps they didn't understand that. And that can be really tough. But brother, you're making the right decision. I can't stress that enough. I think that's absolutely right. If you're looking for, guidance, I know as someone who's been on the receiving end of generous parents and grandparents, there are other ways to help other than co-signing a mortgage. If you have skills that you can offer, you know, maybe they buy the house, but you have the ability to help them redo their bathroom. That might be much more valuable than just giving them money. If you have the ability to be able to help them with yard work, I'm clearing out a bamboo jungle in my backyard right now. If you have the ability to do that, come and help me. No, I'm just kidding. Do that for your kids is what I'm telling you to do. That could be a great thing for you to do, to still want to bless them. But I think you're exactly right. I think when it comes to putting yourself on the hook financially, that could get into a very dangerous point where now there starts to be some codependency there. I'm also a big believer that when you're in your 30s and your daughter-in-law's 40, that's the time of life where your children have flown the nest. They need to figure this stuff out. I am not saying, folks, please don't hear me say that once your children are out of the house, you don't help them anymore. Of course you want to still help them. You want to be able to come alongside them, but it is their job to figure this out. The hope is that your son's 35, someday soon, he would be able to be in a position where, say you or perhaps your spouse, Matt, if she is still alive, maybe you would be in need where you could move in with them. Like there's this concept now where kids my age, and I call them kids because oftentimes we still act like kids, they think, I'm just going to live in mom and dad's basement forever. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's actually supposed to be the other way around, that you're supposed to get to a point where you can say, Mom and Dad, you're getting older. Come live with me. If the relationship's good, of course. You guys come live with me. I'll take care of you as you took care of me. That's just, one more thing to consider there, Matt. But all that to say, I apologize for the rambling. I love your heart with this. I think you're spot on. I think you're exactly right. Know that we'll be storming the gates of heaven for you with this as well. I don't know if you have any other conversations that you're, having with them right now. But I'm sure it's not a fun situation to be in, man. So I really commend your heart, and I commend your desire to be wise and your willingness to say, I love you too much to do something for you that I know you want me to do, but I know in my heart is not going to be what's best for you or for me. So good stuff there, brother. And Matt, I would encourage you also, there's been a lot of good comments in the chat. You can check out those comments also. There's a lot of people in the chat who agree with you as well. And it's cool because they have a little more age than I do, so they might be able to speak to it a little bit more as someone who's in your situation, as opposed to me, who might fall more into the situation of your son. But as someone who is your son's age, roughly, I agree with you completely. I think you're doing what's right. So.
Amen, Seth. And I think if I'm reading that question correctly, it was less of a question and more an ask for some encouragement.
Absolutely.
Which you provided.
So, hopefully we can be that encouragement for you there, brother. Really good stuff. Well, Sam, I apologize. I ate up the whole segment with this, and now we have the Ag Report coming up here soon. So maybe we'll save some of this trade stuff for the next segment there, and we can come to the ag here after we get to one more thing I just wanted to mention for you all. Again, we do have a conference call tomorrow. Can't stress it enough. Please do consider joining us for the conference call. And those of you watching on the chat, great to see so many of you. Lisa is there, and Robert is there. Joseph as well. Good to see Jason from Florida, James from South Carolina. Nelson, who called in earlier, is on the chat. Folks, I don't know if you know this. The elites don't want you to know this. You can join the chat and call the live show. It's a pretty cool thing. You can actually do that. Nelson did that Double today. Dip. Pretty cool. Daniel, William, good to see so many of you there on the chat today. So we'll keep it going here, folks, on financial issues. We got some trade things to talk about, tariffs. Also, we might have time to get to this. We'll see about Harley Davidson's woke CEO retiring. Very interesting. But before all that, here comes Craig Haugaard with today's Ag Update, and then we'll be back after this.
This is Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for April 9th. Well, corn continues to be resilient regardless of what the outside markets are doing. The tariff situation continues with the White House confirming that 104% cumulative tariff on Chinese imports has officially gone into effect, marking a sharp escalation in the ongoing U.S.-China trade conflict. Farmer selling of corn continues to be slow, and the basis continues to be strong domestically. At the close, May corn was 4.5 cents higher at $4.69 per bushel. Soybeans were choppy, but closed in positive territory. Brazil's soybean basis has rallied significantly over the past couple of days, and that's brought the U.S. back to competitiveness landed into China if we didn't have those added tariffs. Now, while China is ratcheting up the tariff battles, other destinations that aren't fighting the tariff wars are finding U.S. beans cheaper than Brazilian beans for April shipment. May beans were 9 3/4 cents higher yesterday at $9.92 3/4. Wheat has kind of basically hitched a ride higher with corn. The rally was also helped along by severe hailstorms in Russia that may have damaged the crop in that country. Now, you toss in fears that the freeze warnings in portions of the U.S.'s soft red winter wheat country will actually hurt the crop, and it all helped to propel us to a stronger close. Minneapolis May wheat was 7 cents higher at $6.01. Kansas City was 2 1/4 cents better at $5.61.5, and Chicago rose by 3.5 cents to close at $5.40 per bushel. Cotton futures were in a pretty narrow trading range. The closing bell May was 44 points lower at 65.55. Livestock futures were mixed. We had June live cattle 55 cents lower at $193.62.5 per hundredweight. May feeder cattle rose by 45 cents, settling at $271.72.5 per hundred. And our June lean hog futures were 27.5 cents lower at $89.77.5 per hundredweight. Milk futures experienced a little bit of a bounce at the closing bell. May futures were 14 points better at $16.92. This has been Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
Hi, this is Shana Burt, the host of Financial Issues. The Financial Issues family is so blessed to have saved tens of thousands of babies, all thanks to the generous support of you, our listeners and viewers. For $140, you can sponsor 5 ultrasounds. Please go to preborn.org, that's preborn.org, or financialissues.org and click on the preborn logo. Save a baby, save a life.
Every day, kids all across America are coming to school with some kind of hidden pain.
I've seen kids come in who are just so confused about what's right and what's wrong, just having no idea that God loves them. And this just breaks my heart. Crossroads has the opportunity to bring the Word of God right into the public school, to reach children right where they are.
And when we see that happen, we see God changing lives.
We want to see kids not only come to Christ, but pursue a lifelong relationship with Him. And so local churches are uniquely positioned to disciple those children as they become young adults and through their lifespan.
Crossroads comes alongside a church and provides that church with a club structure, curriculum, training, and ongoing coaching for them to run these outreaches in public schools.
If you are burdened for the children of America, consider making a donation to Crossroads Kids Club. For more information, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Good to be here with you all on Financial Issues. Thank you so much for your encouragement, folks. I really do appreciate hearing, the encouragement from earlier today. Nelson saying he loved the show, and Rick as well. And I know so many of you will send us emails and respond on the chat. It is humbling, man. It really is. So just thank you so much for that. And Matt, once again, brother, just know that we're praying for you, and I commend your wisdom in your situation. Absolutely. If you missed that, you just joined us, go back and listen to the last segment there. And make sure to catch Shana's segments earlier in the show as well. All right, Sam, let's get to, we have a bit of a rapid fire Wednesday with a silent W in terms of headline. Yeah, Rapid Fire Wednesday. In terms of headlines here, we got a lot to talk about here, and much of it revolving around trade, tariffs, what's going on here. Exactly. So, Sam, why don't you kick it off here? What's going on with the trade negotiations?
They do continue at a rather rapid pace. President Donald Trump yesterday, he said he had a productive call with the current acting president of South Korea, posting on Truth Social, quote, "We have the confines and probability of a great deal for both countries. Their top team is on a plane heading to the U.S. and things are looking good." This, of course, comes as yesterday Israel vowed to remove all tariffs on the United States, and likewise Japan, Vietnam, India, and Taiwan are all looking to strike a deal. In fact, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, says upwards of 70 countries right now are looking to strike a deal. In fact, it's gotten so crazy with the amount of countries that are looking to come to the table. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett says it's actually becoming pretty overwhelming for his office. So here he is talking about that. That's clip one.
I think that right now we're managing a massive number of requests for negotiations. It's actually logistically quite challenging just to go through them. It's something that I've been spending a lot of the time this morning doing, because at NSC and NEC, what we have to do is prioritize the meetings for the president, and there are so many to go through that, we're actually getting ready to present a plan for him on, who and when. But he obviously prioritizes two of our closest allies and trading partners, Japan and Korea, and the word out of those conversations was really positive, and positive really for American workers, American farmers. There are a heck of a lot of concessions on the table. In the end, the president, of course, is going to be the one who decides whether the deal is good enough to change his mind about the tariffs.
And as far as these deals are going, what's the outcome going to be? Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says he expects big deals very soon.
You're starting to negotiate. How soon do you think we could see some deals be made?
Well, we have one of the Vietnamese officials coming in this week. The Japanese are very eager to get over, and I think you're going to see a couple of big trading partners do deals very quickly.
All right, Seth. So that's the field of play right now. Yes. What do you think?
Sam, I kind of think I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about it. I think it seems like the Trump administration is in control of this. For what it's worth, the markets right now are now positive. So once again, they're going to fluctuate, folks. But the Nasdaq is way up. It's really kind of coming back nicely. So I do think, and folks, this is where you really have to be careful if you're following some of the big mainstream media sources for your financial news. Many of them are not going to talk about what we just showed you there, that there are a lot of deals getting done, that there are good things happening. They're going to focus everything pretty much on China or on whatever is going to be kind of the juicy headline that's going to stir up fear.
Yeah, I saw the big headline this morning was that Jamie Dimon, the JP Morgan CEO, he said that, I think a recession is going to come from these tariffs. So, of course, he says one thing and everyone runs with that. So
that's
not that you shouldn't pay attention to what he says, but it is just one person making their prediction.
Exactly right. But I'm seeing that as well right here on one of the big mainstream sites there. So just got to be careful with that, folks. But we're seeing deals getting done, and I suspect we might see more as the week unfolds. Sam, it brings to mind there's one other article here that Scott Bessent, who we actually just heard from, saying that Donald Trump seems to have maximum leverage here, even when we're talking about some of the more nefarious characters like China. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so this is what he's been saying for the last couple of days, is that the United States is in the driver's seats with these tariffs. Donald Trump right now has all the cards because he's applying maximum leverage, in his own words, all at one time in hopes of driving all these people to the table, which appears to be working. But here's Bessent saying that.
President Trump has maximum negotiating leverage right here, right now. And I think it would be a mistake for anyone to think otherwise. And as I said, many of our trading partners, they have queued up and they have kept their cool. They have not escalated, and they will get priority in the queue.
So he says that the trading partners are coming to the table except for one, and that would be China. They're the only country to retaliate so far, which Bessent says was a major, major mistake. Here he is.
I think it was a big mistake, this Chinese escalation, because they're playing with a pair of twos. Traditionally, if you look at the history of the trade negotiations, we are the deficit country. So what do we lose by the Chinese raising tariffs on us? We export 1/5 to them of what they export to us. So that is a losing hand for them.
But China is still trying to play the bluff. If they are playing a pair of twos, they're bluffing pretty well, because yesterday, or rather this morning, they raised tariffs on American goods all the way up to 84%. That's in retaliation to Trump, who recently cranked up tariffs on them to over 104%.
So, Sam, one thing I'm certain of here is that I don't see Trump backing down. That I'm not saying that he might not change his strategy at some point. I do definitely think that's a possibility. But he's being the tough guy on the world stage. And I think for many Americans, that made them a little uncomfortable. I think for many more Americans, this is exactly what we wanted from the leader of the free world during the years of 2021 to 2025, and we weren't getting it. And now we're getting this. So, well, Sam, let's stick in the Far East for just a second here, because there is a question of whether a 10% tariff is going to be set in stone here. What can you tell us about this? I believe this is referring to Singapore, if I'm correct.
Yes, so this is the one kink in the whole tariff conversation, right? Okay. Is what is going to happen if these countries come to the table and agree to get rid of all their tariffs? Is Trump truly going to respond in kind and get rid of all of our tariffs, or does he kind of think there's value to at least leaving some of them on these countries? This is the case with Singapore, which currently doesn't have any tariffs on the United States, and yet they're still subject to Donald Trump's 10% baseline tariff. This is separate from his reciprocal tariffs. There's nothing to respond to with Singapore, and yet their prime minister said that he had a discussion with Donald Trump, and it appears that 10% baseline is not going away. He said, quote, "It doesn't look like the 10% universal rate is open for negotiation. This seems to be the fixed minimum tariff, regardless of a country's trade balances or existing trade arrangements."
So, Sam, I really appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Folks, I hope you're seeing that there is a strategy here. There's a game that's being played, and we'll see as the chess pieces move over the next couple days what's going to happen here. But once again, I'm not overwhelmingly concerned, Sam, even if I should be, and I don't feel like I should be, and I don't feel like any of you should be either. I think this is all part and parcel of making America great again and making our country an economic powerhouse on the world stage once again. My hope is that these other countries will realize that that could be a good thing for them if the United States can be able to be that economic powerhouse. I'm pro-America, as I know you are, Sam, and so I think it's a good thing. So we'll
and that is why some of these things are a little concerning. At least that 10% baseline, if you're not willing to negotiate with that, what that could mean for some of these countries like Singapore is that you're just going to look for trading options elsewhere. Exactly. And what you really don't want them to do is go to China, who is at least making noises about trying to scalp some of the disgruntled countries. So Trump needs to play that carefully. I'm sure he's aware of that, but it is something that we should keep an eye on.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Sam, quickly here to close out the show, let's switch gears for just a moment. We are keeping an eye on BRI issues, wokeism in the workplace. What can you tell us about Harley Davidson? It looks like their woke CEO just retired.
Yeah, he's done, man. CEO, let me see if I say this right, Jochen Zeitz. He's a German guy. He's actually a German climate activist who became CEO in May of 2020. So
a climate activist for Harley Davidson.
Yes, he's a climate activist and a German guy. So nothing screams Americana and motorcycles like German climate activists. But that's who they hired. May 2020. So the height of the COVID nonsense and also the woke stuff was starting to seep in with George Floyd. I'm not sure if this was before or after George Floyd, but it was right about around that time. According to Robbie Starbuck, under his watch, this guy really changed the company, bringing in numerous pride events, supporting pro-LGBT political causes, and was also committed to having fewer white suppliers, dealers, and employees. I don't know if his retiring has anything to do with the consumer backlash that came from last year because of these policies, but I know that Harley Davidson sales have been struggling, and that could just because consumers aren't buying these kinds of things right now because the economy's tight. But it is possible that that backlash at least has something to do with him stepping aside.
And you know, Sam, I can't help, you're exactly right. I can't help but wonder how successful a climate activist would be as the CEO of a motorcycle company. Those things just don't seem seem to match up to me there. So good stuff. Sam, thank you for bringing that to our attention, folks. Well, it is time for us to say goodbye for today. Appreciate you all so much joining us today. It was a great show, and God willing, we will do it again tomorrow. I do hope you'll remember to join us for our conference call tomorrow. We'll make sure to announce it tomorrow as well. But 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, tomorrow afternoon is our conference call. You can find that, partners, on the conference call page. The information is there, and you should have gotten an email for it as well. Folks, everything you have belongs to the Lord. Let's be found good and faithful stewards with all of it. God bless you all. We'll see you next time.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.